All right, chat. I ain't gonna. Hello? Why the fuck am I so dark? Hello? Am I that black? Am I that black? Hey, bro, y'all tell me how y'all fucking with the camera. I shouldn't be this black, though. Why am I this black? Hold up. Hold up. Cause why am I this black? Don't mind. Okay, here we go. We don't let that black no more. We don't let that black no more. Y'all see that shit? Did I look hit? My fault. Y'all shouldn't have saw that shit. Anyway, um, we have a day in the life as a GTA person. Can you live as a normal person in GTA? If you click this video, you know what you got yourself into.
Whoop-de-doo.
You hear now.
GTA Online offers many pathways to become a dangerous criminal mastermind.
Okay.
From robbing banks to becoming a drug kingpin and killing anyone who gets
Hello.
to becoming a drug kingpin and killing anyone who gets in your way. Norm can't do any of that. After losing all of his money gambling at the local casino, his wife has kicked him out and took the children. Now, he is forced to pay $1 million in child support payments. And if he fails, he may never see his children again. Norm is a cowardly man and is far too afraid to commit any crimes in his pursuit of money. He will take any opportunity to earn cash as long as it's legal and realistic for anyone to complete. For example, whilst he could farm money from stunt races, which technically could be legal, it's not very realistic to earn money from a floating obstacle course in the sky. Who exactly is paying him to do this?
Exactly.
How are these objects even floating in the first place? This is not very realistic, and a normal person could not earn money this way. But nevertheless, with knowing the rules set in place, Norm arrives off the coach in Los Santos and takes his first step into the big city. As fate would have it, the coach stop is right outside of the casino, and Norm simply cannot resist. He walks into the casino to gamble and inevitably earn his fortune. However, it appears that there is a $500 membership fee to make use of any of the casino services. Given all he has is the dirty Cheeto-stained clothes on his back, he obviously cannot buy it. Norm chalks this up to elitism, cursing Miss Baker, who somewhat resembles his ogre ex-wife. Itching for the slot machines, he goes to beg the front desk for a discount. However, the casino is offering $1,000 worth of chips to players every single day. He immediately cashes these chips back in for the $1,000 and buys the membership. With the 5k sign-up bonus, he, of course, heads straight for the slot machines. Naturally,
the slots? Y'all going to the slot machine as soon as y'all get some bread? Y'all think the slot machine be doing y'all good? I'm going straight to blackjack.
He loses everything.
Oh, dude.
With no money left, he leaves the casino and patrols the streets looking for a way to earn some cash. Luckily for Norm, he notices that Junk Energy is offering a small cash prize for participants that perform various skydiving stunts around the city. Likely,
what? That's not realistic.
As a way to promote their business. These stalls seem to be set up with the permission of the city council, and thus he deems them as acceptable.
I guess he basically saying right there, because I said that's not realistic. He started basically saying stop dick ride. That's basically what he said. Damn.
He is a little bit afraid of the heights, but with little will left to live anyway, he figures he might as well go ahead and give it a go.
Yeah,
he performs the stunt and earns himself a whopping $4,000. Wow, that was incredibly easy money. Luckily for Norm, this would be enough to go back to the casino and hit the slots. Norm, once again, lost it all straight away. Grumbling to himself about these scammed odds, he begins to worry about later on in the day. He has nowhere to sleep, and he has no money to buy something to eat. Knowing that starving to death will act as an obstacle in his goal to hit it big on the slots, he figures he needs to earn some quick cash. He heads back to the parachute activity and performs another stunt. However, despite completing it even better than before, this time he only receives 1,400. Junk Energy clearly don't see the necessity in paying full price for a stunt that's already been completed. It was less than before, but at least it was something. Nevertheless, it was getting late and Norm needed to grab something to eat. As it was late, he had to find a store that was open at this hour. It had been a very busy day and Norm was incredibly hungry. However, he didn't actually have enough money to buy food after spending it on 10 bottles of piss water and a pack of smokes. He chowed down on his succulent meal and...
I ain't gonna lie, bro, this nigga going through it and it's only been 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Found the coziest dumpster to sleep behind. He got his head down next to the cracked vent pipes and closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. He dreamed of a day when he'd no longer have to sleep behind a dumpster, when he'd have enough money to enjoy life and show everyone that has doubted him that he could be a success. Norm wakes early in the day and what a beautiful morning it was. With the wind in his hair, the sun shining down upon him, and the scent of rats scurrying around him filled him with a ton of determination. To maximise his earning potential, Norm had to complete different parachute jobs. He could not farm the same one over and over again. Norm heads for the nearest parachute activity and completes it perfectly. He nets himself 2,300, then he heads for another. This time, 5,000. However, on the way to the next parachute job, he encounters a crazed maniac chasing him and his cab down. Norm had to think fast. He jumped out of the taxi and expertly clicked on passive mode as he did. His pursuer tried to exit in his car to fire at him, but Norm maneuvers to take this idiot's car and drives away to safety. Nobody could possibly fault Norm for this. His life was in danger. This couldn't possibly be considered a crime by any reasonable mind. He heads to and completes another parachute job and earns $3,000. He now had earned $10,000 in total. This was the most he's had since stepping foot in Los Santos.
Nigga, this ain't made more money than me and I actually own businesses.
However, he felt like progress was maybe moving a bit too slow. And eventually, he would run out of parachute jobs to complete. He tried looking around for other Junk Energy events, such as the RC Bandito time trial. However, unlike the parachute jobs, you were required to possess your own apparatus for the job instead of it being supplied for you. However, just around the corner, it seemed the Downtown Cab Corporation was hiring drivers. Of course! It was so simple. Why didn't Norm think of getting a job earlier? Despite not having much driving experience, they took him on, set him out with a cab and sent him on his way. For every taxi job, Norm would earn the equivalent of one parachute job, which led to making much faster progress. Wow, Norm felt as if he'd discovered an infinite money glitch. Who knew that people would pay you for their labour? What a novel concept. These taxi jobs were simple enough. They would spawn a pedestrian nearby you'd have to pick up and then you drive them to their destination. Easy peasy. Where the challenge and a little bit of annoyance comes in is in the fact that these spawn and drop off locations are entirely RNG based. You could get a guy that's close to you and only wants dropping off around the corner, or you could get someone who wants to be driven into the wilderness in the middle of nowhere. If you were lucky, you could chain some easy jobs back to back, but more often than not, you were driving miles upon miles for singular jobs. Eventually, Norm did grind enough to buy a small 2-vehicle garage and a Batty 801 bike for around $40,000. This was a big upgrade, as this would aid in getting around the map far faster than walking or taking a cab, and he could pursue many more money-making opportunities in a quicker allotment of time. Whilst driving around the streets on his new bike, Norm gets a tip off about a new Junk Energy promotion, a mountain biking time trial on Mount Chiliad. With a desire for the change in scenery, he makes the journey through Blaine County and heads for the job. Norm enjoys the change of scenery. Getting away from the hustle and bustle of the big city is maybe just what he needed. It was a long drive, but it was peaceful. And wow, Norm held his breath at the sight of such a view. Just for a brief moment, Norm felt like he was at the tippity top of the world. One selfie later, Norm approached the time trial with a sense of confidence. Of course, Norm's quads were built like tree trunks, as due to the lack of money throughout his life, he had been forced to learn how to sit down without a chair. It's a tough journey down the mountain, with many perilous turns and drops. However, he does make it down safely, and most importantly, under the set part-time. Junk Energy rewards him with a whopping $50,000 for his efforts, and Norm is absolutely ecstatic. And most importantly, under the set part-time. Junk Energy rewards him with a whopping $55,000
for what? What did he do?
Perilous
the bike.
And drop.
I'm like, what
Norm
the
is
fuck?
absolutely rewards him with a what? And most importantly, on guy.
Yeah, it was for the bike. My bad, Chad. My bad. I just
for
have to make
relatively
sure.
minimal effort, Norm is rewarded with his biggest payout yet.
That nigga
Sadly,
dead.
these jobs can only be completed once every real world 24.
Hey, that nigga just died and then ended up dying again. With under 5 seconds, this nigga just got back up.
Payout
He died
yet.
right here.
Sadly,
you can tell he died because that's the X. X marks the spot where you die at.
These
Then
jobs can only
right
be
here.
completed once
Again.
every real world 24 hours, and they cannot be fun.
Dude,
Despite
this
that,
nigga
Norm
dying
finds
back
the
to
motivation
back.
to grind extra
The
hard,
back,
and
the
he
back,
begins
the
a
back.
few more parachute jobs. He quickly completes these,
funny,
and
though.
with that, he has now earned a total of $80,000. This was a huge achievement for Norm, and he could not have done it without his new change in mindset. For perhaps the first time in his life, Norm felt pride in what he has accomplished. $80,000 is actually a huge milestone in this journey. Norm could now invest his money into a property to live in. The benefits of owning this apartment is numerous. Firstly, and most importantly, he
Two-car
could now
garage.
spawn inside the city.
With an
Since up
apartment.
until now, he has had to drive all the way from Palito Bay down to the city.
Damn.
Secondly, it was just nice to get off the streets. Norm went to the casino and bought as many chips as he could, and promptly lost everything.
You remember that didn't work the
Fortunately for Norm's
first
sake,
3 times.
casino members are not allowed to buy more than $20,000 worth of chips in a single day. And this small, simple fact has just prevented Norm from being set straight back to zero. Norm really did begin to feel like a bit of a silly goose. A silly sausage even. He knew he had to really book his ideas up. Karen would come knocking for that first child support payment at some point, and Norm had to be ready. Fortunately for him, he stumbled upon an ad for the San Andreas Flight School. The government was seemingly taking on new budding pilots and training them up, with a large cash reward as an incentive. This makes sense, as the government can on occasion create grants such as this to incentivize people into certain careers of interest. You receive money. We receive a newly trained pilot that has the ability to pinpoint drop ballistic missiles on small Middle Eastern villages. It's a win-win for everyone. He drove down to LSIA and signed himself up. To receive the full payout, Norm had to earn a gold star in every lesson. No problem, Norm thought. Back at school, he definitely was the most cleverest and smartest student there ever was. Norm, in fact, was so special, he got to wear a special helmet into school every day. Some of these lessons were definitely harder than others. The first few are incredibly easy. But for some reason, Norm had trouble parking the Titan on an empty beach. Over and over again, he managed to fail this job. I don't know why. I don't know why it was a struggle for him, but it was. But eventually, Norm did ace every single lesson. And upon completion, he was awarded with $230,000. This was a huge amount of money, and it was the biggest step forward for progress in this challenge that Norm has completed thus far.
Why nobody? And that bike slow as fuck. How much money he gonna lose? He got about like almost 300.
After another unsuccessful attempt to win his fortune, he noticed a local pizza place was hiring new delivery drivers. As indicated by his grotesque, greasy double chin, he thinks he can call himself an expert in matters of pizza, and was bound to be a natural fit for the role. He received his company-supplied Faggio
Nigga,
and
I
got
ain't
to
making
work
the
on the
pizza.
open road. With
He
the scent
delivering.
of pepperoni festering his nostrils, he quickly went door-to-door delivering the pizzas. The basic wage for delivering around 5 pizzas is $10,000, which is quite decent depending on the
Yeah,
RNG
that's
of where the
decent, 'cause,
delivery locations spawn. However, if all the pizzas are delivered before they get cold, which is 10 minutes, you receive the hot and fresh bonus, which grants you an extra 10,000. 20,000 in 10 minutes is the fastest repeatable job Norm can perform, and will make this challenge incredibly easy from here on out. Well, that's what I would be saying if it weren't for the 48-minute cooldown on all pizza delivery jobs. Because,
What?
of course, Rockstar allow modders to spawn in billions for themselves with no consequence. But if little Norm here delivers too many pizzas, that will become the real issue. Nevertheless, a pattern was beginning to emerge for Norm to earn money. There are a total of 3 pizza delivery spots, and as long as Norm can earn the bonus, he can receive 60,000 in 30 minutes or less. Then, whilst the cooldown is clocking down, he can do some taxi jobs in the meantime, which for 48 minutes of work, which is how long a day lasts in GTA, he can net himself around 40,000. It was slow, but reliable progress. Naturally, as this is GTA Online we're talking about, Norm fell victim to a couple of extra cool individuals who, for whatever reason, absolutely had it out for him. It was Norm, his Faggio, and his pizzas against a fully weaponized Avenger. Norm cared very little for his own safety, but the pizzas were growing cold and his $10,000 bonus was slipping through his fingers. That was until Norm saw an opening to pounce back and take his scooter. He drove as fast as his little scooter could carry him, and finally, he managed to deliver the last pizza. It may have been riddled with bullet holes and shrapnel, but one thing the customer could not deny was that it was still warm. At this point, Norm had just earned under $400,000 and wanted a little change of pace. At this point, I decided to try out some contact missions just to simply break up the flow of pizza and taxi work. For the majority of the contact missions, they would very easily break the rule set, with a ton of crimes being committed. There was one, however, that seemed fairly acceptable. It was a simple repossession job for Simeon. It was a car located in South Los Santos. Norm was aware, however, that this was a dangerous area of the city, and as a very necessary precaution, he decided to buy the thickest body armor ammunition will supply and head off to the car's location. However, the moment he placed his hand on the door handle, the man pulled out a gun and tried shooting Norm. He slammed his foot on the accelerator and darted for Simeon's. He didn't even know that he was getting chased, as he didn't even look back in fear. And before he knew it, he had arrived, with his life intact. With a deep breath, he left the vehicle and got his payment from Simeon.
How much was it?
Wow, a grand total of $7,500.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it.
2 taxi jobs. That was definitely worth risking his life for. Norm vowed to never work with Simeon again, and as a result, he didn't complete another contact mission again for the rest of the challenge. After everything that has happened, Norm needed a vacation, but he knew he couldn't pry himself from working. Luckily for him, Norm was sent a mysterious email about a treasure hunt, with, most importantly, a substantial cash reward for finding it. This was likely a treasured family heirloom, and it could make sense why someone would pay so much for it. This was absolutely perfect. Norm could travel around the state and enjoy the time away whilst also being productive. With the plan set in place, Norm got on his bike and left the city. After investigating and finding 3 leads, he eventually gets to the spot where the treasure is buried, and he finds a golden revolver. Norm thought his job was done, but the next email took this treasure hunt down a dark direction. Norm was forced to get 50 headshot kills with the revolver to receive his payout. Luckily for Norm, he thought of a workaround that might keep his conscience clean. He knew that a bunch of wildlife had recently migrated to the Los Santos area. Hunting is legal in the state of San Andreas, and thanks to Norm's accustomed taste to possum, he had already earned his hunting license. Norm could get the 50 headshot kills on the wildlife, and it would count towards his target. So, Norm got to work hunting, and for the next 2 hours, he slowly crept around the forest and racked up the kills. This segment of the challenge was absolute torture. If you've never hunted in GTA 5, these animals are insanely skittish and run at the slightest bit of sound. As a result, you basically have to stay in permanent stealth mode, which slows you down a ton. 35GB of 1080p footage later, Norm had achieved his 50 headshots. And upon satisfying this Jigsaw Killer-esque freak, he received a massive 250,000 into his account. This was a huge step forward for Norm, and as a result, he went to the casino and wasted 20,000 of it on the slots.
That's crazy.
Regardless of his casino luck, Norm was up. Norm had noticed that another Junk Energy mountain bike time trial had been set up. He went over to it and completed it with ease, clocking him another 50,000 to make 700,000 in total in his account. At this point, Norm could see the finish line in sight and got to work grinding his regular taxi and pizza jobs. It was so close to being over, and this drove him on even harder than before. It even got to the point that Norm was beginning to forget about the casino entirely. I mean, look at what he had earned through sheer hard work alone. At this point, it was just about mindless grinding to achieve the target. The task wasn't too bad in and of itself. It was tedious for sure, but I could just tear my brain off and get it done with a Cookless stream on in the background.
You recording me?
No. The worst part about this was that people decided to attack me completely out of the blue and for no reason over and over again.
Well, that's just rude.
What's worse, if my taxi or scooter did get destroyed, it cost me a huge chunk of time, as I would be forced to return to the depot or the pizza place to retrieve another vehicle and begin the entire activity again. Luckily, I actually did manage to get the bonus on every single pizza delivery, which was a miracle as far as GTA Online is concerned. But after hours upon hours of pizza deliveries and taxi rides, Norm was but one pizza delivery away from his goal. Maybe it was the proximity to these pizzas, but Norm could swear that he could taste victory. It was right there and he just had to grab it. Norm had done it. $1 million in GTA Online as a completely normal person. Yes,
go
totally
get your kid,
normal.
nigga.
With that, Norm could finally live a comfortable life. Norm could send over his child support payments with absolutely no worries. But most importantly, Norm had been on a journey. A journey of self-reflection, growth, and change. Despite all the hardships he had endured, despite the blood, sweat, and tears he put into his work, Norm could finally say he was proud of himself.
Go get your kid, nigga. Don't ever make nobody tell you can't.
Well,
don't ever let
$1
nobody
million is
bitch.
a lot of money, and Norm had never had this much before. Just think, if just one of these horses pay out, he could easily triple everything he's earned with no effort at all. He had been unlucky before, but, you know, his luck had to turn around this time. And, with bated breath, Norm awaited the results.
He was? Oh, come on, come on, come on. Damn, did he ever return? Fuck. Did he ever return? Fuck. Fuck. Anyway, I love y'all boys. I'm out.